Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for making it tonight. Tonight, Eric Yeager is going to present on how to use a secure, how he uses a secure website to create a visual introduction or guidebook to his child and hopefully your child. The website that Eric created for his son is an extraordinary tool, and those of us who have had the opportunity to see it are so impressed with the sheer power of videos and pictures and how Eric has used them to communicate a day in the life of his son. But before Eric presents, Suzanne IVerson would like to say a few words.
Hi, everybody. I'm Suzanne IVerson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Community Partners, and I oversee a variety of programs, most of which are adult services. And I think that the website that Eric created is such a valuable tool for staff training to be able to really have staff understand and learn who someone is before they come into a program. I think we're also moving to a new electronic health record, and I think that moving to a virtual platform where we would be able to have videos and unique snippets about individuals' specific needs and areas of strength, I think are really going to be valuable for us. Right now we have things in a book, in a binder, in a closet, in one location. And going forward, then we would be able to have people, get to know somebody from different locations. I think I'm really excited about this presentation and the beginning of us broadening this out to as many families as we can. So thank you, Eric.
Well, you're welcome, Jackie and Suzanne. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. You make it sound as though I created this amazing new idea or technology. I think like all great ideas in the end, it's a relatively simple idea and maybe just simply the culmination of tools that have become available and become more accessible for people like myself to use. My name is Eric Yeager. I'm a dad of a child that has special needs. Zenith Yeager is my son. And I think while we're going to talk about one piece of how we managed his transition, this really has been sort of a lifelong issue for me, like I think all of you and other parents who struggle with this. How do I introduce my child to the world? How do I communicate who they are? And, who they are is in part factual information. What's their disease? How old are they? How big are they? How do they eat food? But that's really only part of what we all want to convey. And in fact, most of us, when we first introduce our child, really want to convey what an incredible individual they are, what an incredible person, how awesome it is to see them smile, to understand the way they love to interact with others. And all through their lives, because they often can't communicate for themselves, we struggle to figure out how to share that information. I came across this challenge as Zenith was approaching his 21st birthday. We were thinking about transition. And I had been challenged to put together information to share with community partners. And I began to think, well, how am I going to do that? And I went back and I'll show you what I pulled out. For summer camp some years ago, I had produced a written guide, what I called a guide to Zenith. And it was intended to have all that information in one place in kind of a traditional notebook where probably a lot of us create that kind of a resource for our children. And it worked pretty well with camp. And I'd included a couple of pictures in it, and I thought that was kind of neat. But as I began to think about transition and all of the people, I was going from, school where he'd had the same teacher for, nearly a decade, and people had worked with him for years and understood him well, to an entirely new group of folks. One of the things I realized right away I want to do was share pictures, and I would have loved to share videos was my thought. And I'm like, well, how am I going to do that? How's that really going to work? And in the end, I thought, yeah, I could email them around. I could create links and send them to people, but it was going to be piecemeal. It was going to be challenging. There were going to be so many different people involved. What I ultimately decided to do was to create a website, a very simple, free, relatively, and we'll talk about, Jackie's mentioned a secure website. We'll talk about the level of securities here, because I think you have to be comfortable that this is not going to be secure like, Fort Knox kind of secure. And like so many things, you have choices between how secure something is and how accessible it is. I chose to create a website that may sound challenging. I want to show you tonight literally how we did it and the tools that we used. And I believe with a little bit of effort, this is accessible to everybody. If you're not particularly technology savvy, that's okay, because we all have a husband or a daughter or a coworker who is more comfortable with technology. I think what's important for you to have is a passion for your child and some sense of the story that you want to tell. I think I'm going to start off by showing you the Zenith's website, because we can all talk about it, but giving you a glimpse as to what actually was created, I think will give you some sense of what we're trying to accomplish here. So I'm going to click over. Oh, and I need to share my screen now. Let's see how this is going to work.
Does Jackie, do you need to make Eric co-host so that he can share his screen, or can you share it?
I think I can do it from right here. Let's see.
Great.
Can you guys see my screen now?
Yep.
Yeah. So I've done a lot of these Zoom meetings. Let's see. So here's Zenith's website. And when you first arrive here, you're going to see up at the top that it's yeager.wixsite.com, because I use the service wix.com. And in theory, you could use any website service that offers free websites. I use Wix because they offer a relatively robust feature set for a free website. It's not very impressive when you first get here. It just says guest area. It doesn't even identify Zenith, but this is one piece of the security we talked about. So anybody coming to this web page just because they had the link wouldn't be able to get in. You need to know the password to get in. I'm not going to tell everybody on the call the password, but it's not a terribly complicated one. So once we get inside, though, assuming I type it in correctly, I think you can immediately begin to see what people were talking about in terms of the power. Right as soon as the website opens, I'm sure any of you could, even though there are pictures of a bunch of different people there, instantly pick Zenith out and instantly, without reading a word, get some sense of what kind of a kid he is, that he's a happy kid, a vibrant kid, a kid who likes being around other people. I'll be honest, I'll take you through the rest of it. There's more to it, of course, but right here, and I'm going to scroll a little bit because these are the top 3 pictures. But as we go down, you're going to see a whole bunch of different pictures. And as you see, as I scroll over some of them, videos as well. And these are all relatively recent pictures. Some are a little younger. And I'll talk about as I go along how I selected because there's a little bit of a thought process that goes into selecting the pictures and the videos that I did. And I'll just click on, I'll show you the way this works. Here, for example, I'm going to go up. I don't want to make you guys dizzy. But here is actually a video. That's Zenith on a treadmill at Planet Fitness. He's only been there a couple of times, but he actually did remarkably well. And if you pause for a second and think about what's the value of this video, it's not just showing Zenith and his body and his personality, it's showing how he walks, right? It's showing an activity that he's capable of doing. And so that was one of the, we'll talk about a little bit as we go along, but that was one of the criteria I had, trying to pick videos and photos that that would give you some sense of, you might use the term the ADLs, the activities of daily living. How is Zenith capable of doing those? And then I'm just going to very quickly, there's another short video. Interestingly, that video that just played, and I'll play it again, I created with another free tool, the iMovie app that is available on every iPhone. I created that using the iMovie app. So I'm not going to take you through all of these, but you get a sense pretty quickly of who Zenith is. Here's a picture of it's a younger picture, but one that involves all of his siblings. So I want to go back out. Here we are again on the home page. And as I said, the main feature of this is the photographs, quite honestly. But at the top, you'll see it says a guide to Zenith, a life. Nothing complicated about that. The text on this page is extremely brief. You're going to see on other pages, I'll show you in a little bit, there's more text, although I tried to keep it very visually focused. And at the top, it just says Zenith is a happy, smiling boy who enjoys watching and interacting with others. He's developmentally about 3 years old. Physically, he appears to be about 13, but is actually 20. He loves to talk to you mostly through his catchphrases and one-word sentences. He sometimes has brief seizures. He walks, he runs, he swims, but's a little unsteady on his feet. Check out the videos and pics of Zenith and his family and friends below and elsewhere on the site. So I really struggled to, and this may be one of the hard parts, but coming up with a summary that conveys a little bit about who your child is, gives them just the briefest touch of, medical conditions and capabilities, and then invites people to explore around the rest of the site. You'll see at the top here, I've got some other pages. So there's one called Activities, one called Behavior, one called Daily Living that has underneath it Eating, Bedtime, and Morning Routines, and Hygiene. And then under Medical, I've got Seizures, Eczema and Allergies, Medications, Physicians, and Insurances. So let's go over here to Activities. Maybe. Or we'll go to Behavior. And again, very visually focused. I tried to be, while I'm trying to show Zenith in a positive light, I also tried to be honest with his behaviors, because not all of Zenith's behaviors are positive, and that can be a challenging thing for us as parents to do. So I said here, Zenith is generally well behaved, but when he gets frustrated, he will pinch or headbutt. When this occurs, step away from Zenith until he calms down. It is sometimes necessary to give Zenith a timeout for him to collect himself. I don't go into a ton of detail. This is not a well-crafted behavioral plan by one of the behavioral specialists who work with Zenith at school. And yet, if you're somebody who's stepping into work with Zenith for the day and have reviewed this section, you'll at least have a valuable piece of information on how to work with Zenith. You'll see down below, that's a picture of Zenith crying when he was very upset, sort of lying up against my chest. And again, just showing that he can indeed get frustrated. Daily Living. So here's where I start to give more valuable information with some detail. I guess not a ton of detail on this page, but Zenith will eat almost anything, but has a deep, lifelong love for cheese. He sometimes will feed himself with a fork or spoon, but often needs assistance, choking hazard. And then there are some videos on here. And while most of the videos I used and photos I used were ones that I already had just sitting on my phone when I went to look, I will admit that I did deliberately try and create some of the videos, and I think this may have been one, just to be able to convey to people, Zenith's capabilities, because it may be difficult to get a sense of that otherwise. What else on Daily Living? Hygiene. Bedtime and morning routines. So here's a little more detail. Zenith generally goes to bed between 8 and 8:30. And then I give a little bit of detail. He's seated on the toilet. He's urged to pee. A fresh pull-up is put on. Details that you wouldn't share with the general public necessarily, but are critically important for anybody working with him. Medical. I talk about Zenith's seizures here, including his emergency medication at the bottom, and I can see that needs to be updated. Eczema and allergies, and so forth. And I chose to, one of the things we'll talk about as we go along, I chose to include some information about Zenith's insurance and physicians. One of the things I really love about this website is that I created it and I control it. And I decide what information gets put up there. Now, in the future, maybe community partners or other organizations will have capabilities to allow people to create websites on their systems. But since I created this independently, I can control what's up there. I was comfortable putting up the insurance information, the physician information. You might not be comfortable, and that's the beautiful part. I'm going to show you what I did, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're bound by the structure that I created. There is no one way to do this. And I suspect everybody's website will look a little bit differently. All right, so before I go on, I'm going to go step back from the website itself for a moment, just to tell you how I went about gathering the sort of information and thoughts. Anybody have any questions? We will come back to, and I'll show you some of the guts of how you create the website itself, but any questions about the structure or why I created it or... Okay. All right, so let's go on. I did create 2 materials, and if we haven't distributed these to you already, they are available from Jackie. One is, you see it, I assume you can all see my screen. It says Tommy Smith, a guide. This is actually, I created a version of this for Zenith, but I've created a sort of a dummy version of this, not about a real person, that you can look at as sort of a mock-up. But this is very close to the guide to Zenith, the written guide to Zenith that I created for camp, and I'll go through it. In part, the reason I'm showing this to you and the reason I recommend starting here is, number one, many of you may have this or pieces of this already. I found this is a great way to organize my thoughts, so when I went to create the website, it was relatively straightforward to do. So on the first page of my guide, the first page, I'm a big believer that things should fit on a single page. And so for Zenith, I created this guide, and the first page, single page, is literally a summary of all of the relevant information about him. And again, this is about, I created this about, not about Zenith, but it has the summary at the top, and you'll see it's very similar to the summary that appears at the top of his website. Goes on to talk about medications, seizures, emergency medication, family, behavior, his eczema, hygiene, bedtime routine, foods, water intake, catchphrases, swimming. Now, I don't mean to suggest, and I really, one of the points I want to clarify is you can't reduce a life to a website. You can't reduce a life to a piece of paper or a single page summary. And of course, there is no substitute for meeting your child, working with your child. And, in today's time of COVID, that's made all the more challenging. But we need to start somewhere. We need to have something that we can use as a basis. And so this was how I approached it. You might approach it differently. And then I think this is about 10 pages total, which roughly correlates to the pages on the website. So for each page after that, I have medications, where I describe the medications Zenith takes, including dosages, including his emergency medication, his over-the-counter medications. I've got his physicians listed here. I've got his insurance information listed here. And again, this is dummy information. You could choose to include this or not include this. I have a deeper description on the next page of Zenith's seizures, because that's the primary medical issue that most people would end up dealing with in the event of an emergency with Zenith. I talk about his eczema and allergies, and even then I was starting to use pictures to actually illustrate so that people could get a better sense of what I was talking about. Bedtime and morning routines and a little bit of detail. Activities and behavior. We didn't get to this page on the website, but this talks about, he loves when people sing songs, Wheels on the Bus, Pizza by Charlotte Diamond, Five Little Monkeys. It talks about puzzles, catchphrases. On this page, and I didn't include all of this detail on the website, but I talk in some detail about what like foods he enjoys and how they need to be prepared. And then I talk about swimming, and that's the guide to Zenith that I had developed first for camp, and then ended up using as a basis for the website. And I recommend this as a good place to start, both for organizing the material and for gathering things that you need. Any questions about that? All right, I promise all these pieces will come together as we go forward. And then the last thing I'll show you, this document's also available. That's Zenith and me on the picture there. It's called Creating an Online Visual Guide to Your Child. I'm continuing to tweak this a little bit, but this is really intended as a very short description of how to duplicate what I've done. We're going to go through it today and show you how to do what we did. This document will give you some details in writing, so when you sit down and attempt to do it yourself, you'll have some more information. I really divide it into 3 parts. Part 2 I already talked with you about, create a written guide to my child. Part 1 is gathering digital photos and videos. So I've already mentioned that I gathered a variety of photos and videos of Zenith. You figure out the number. I suggest starting with at least 20 photos and 5 videos. but you could have 40 and 10. It really doesn't matter. But I do think you want more rather than less, because I think you want to be a little selective with what you put up there. Ideally, the photos and videos you pick will reveal important aspects of who your child is, how they walk, how they eat, how they brush their teeth. I do think it's very important to have photos with emotional impact. And I was deliberate about picking both photos that showed Zenith happy and smiling and interacting, as well as those that showed him, unhappy and crying and being a little bit grumpy. And then I also very deliberately chose a wide selection of photos that showed people that are important in Zenith's life. His extended family, support folks, and folks from the school who had worked with him, who people in the transition team might be interacting with. And again, if you were going to talk to this person on the phone, how cool is it to, you might not actually meet Zenith's mom in person, but you could see your photo and you could see her interacting with Zenith as a prelude to having that conversation. So, and most of you probably have a ton of photos. They might be on your phone, they might be on your spouse's phone, they might be on your computer. What you want to do is try and get them transferred over to a computer, a desktop or a laptop where you can work with them. There's really no magic to the format. Most pictures come in JPEG or another format called PNG. Videos can be a little more tricky, but for the most part, you'll be able to pull videos off of your smartphone if you need help with that. Again, your kid, one of your children is probably better able to help you. And then, so the last piece, part 3, is creating a web page on Wix. Now, I mentioned before, we're going to go back to Wix now. So Wix is a service I've used to create websites for myself. It's called a What You See is What You Get editor. Website creation tools have come a long way. They're not quite as simple as using Microsoft Word to type up a resume, but they're getting there quickly. And some of them are easier to use than others. Wix is pretty straightforward, but I'm not going to suggest to you that you can sit down today and by later this evening have a website for your child. You may need to, and I'm going to walk you literally through. We will literally walk through the steps to create this right now. But it may take a little bit of practice and fiddling around. Also, there are certainly other website creation tools like Squarespace and others that maybe you've already used or you might find easier to use. I certainly don't promote Wix. I don't work for Wix. I don't get any money if you use a Wix website. And the website I use here is completely free. It's free forever. It's not free for a trial period. And I've had some, I do also use some paid Wix sites for some of my other work. I've had free websites up for an extended period of time without any difficulty. So you'll need to create an account on Wix. It works pretty much like creating an account on anything. You set it up with your email address and a password. And this is my Wix page where I've got a variety of the sites I've created listed. Somewhere, once you log in, you will see that there will be a Create New Site button. They make it pretty easy to find. On this page, it's in the upper corner there. And I'm just going to click on that Create New Site. And then Wix is designed to work with people who are not terribly sophisticated at creating websites, so they do a pretty good job guiding you along. You'll come to this page. What kind of website do you want to create? And I'm going to recommend, you could play around with any of these, but I deliberately went to photography. Why did I deliberately go to photography? Can anybody guess? So I went to
I can, but it's not fair. Somebody else should.
And of course, I went to photography because my entire focus was a visual focus, and I suspected that the photography templates that Wix offered, which is what I used for Zenith's website, would be particularly helpful at showcasing the visual aspects. And so I went right into photography. And you can pick any of these. They're all kind of cool, but I'm going to recommend you pick the one right here, the very first one called Family Photographer. It's what I use to create Zenith's website. You're going to see they offer you 2 buttons, View if you just want to check it out, or Edit. you go ahead and click on Edit, and you give Wix a moment while it loads the template. Like so many of these things, it comes up with some pop-ups. You can just X through those. And here we are. This is sort of the back-end guts of, well, this was originally what Zenith's website looked when I got here. It's a website that you can see, if I go back for 1 second. Whoop. Oh, I guess I closed Zenith's website. Did I? I must have. But
It's over way on the right-hand tab there. I think it says eczema and allergies.
oh,
Is that him?
yeah, it must be. But for some reason, I'm having trouble. Oh, there we go. So there's a little zoom thing that comes down. If you go back here, you're going to see that this website that I created, there's a striking resemblance to this one right here. I took the general layout. I took most of the typography. I changed all of the pictures and all of the words and all of the pages, the names of the pages, but otherwise I used this template which they provide, which made it fairly easy for me to, and in the end, I ended up with a result that, you know, I appreciate the compliments, but I definitely was leaning heavily on the tools that Wix had already given to me. So if you look here, you've got the page in the center here, and off to the left, you're going to see it says site structure, pages, and then literally the pages are listed right there. And if I click on them, portfolio, pregnancy, babies, these are the pages that they've sort of preloaded onto there. What I want you guys to do once you're here is I want you to delete all of these pages because you're going to put in your own pages. So if I click on, for example, the pregnancy one, I go over here to the settings gear. I click on settings. And when I get over to here, I can click again and it will allow me to delete that page. And you may not remember that detail. This may be the kind of thing you have to fiddle around with a little bit, but and now I can go in and delete each of these pages, and I'm just going to get them out of the way because we're going to create our own pages, and you can work with the templates they provided, but I think it's easier to just start from scratch. Except for the portfolio page, I want you to keep that page. There's a lot of power in Wix. There's power. Whoops. There's power to do a lot of different things with it. I don't use most of that power. What I'm going to show you is a very simple website. Probably the most sophisticated piece of this is setting up the password protection, and even that is relatively straightforward. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to click back over here on this page. I'm going to look at the photos and say, you know, those aren't the photos I want to use. Those are, you know, some stock photos that they got from somewhere. I want to load my photos in place of these. You'll see there's a button here that says Content Manager. And I'll click on the Content Manager. And actually, I'm going to get back out of there for 1 second. I'm going to click on one of the photos, and I'm going to click on Manage Media. And up will come a space that has the photos that Wix loaded, the stock photos Wix loaded in here. And once again, when I scroll over them, you'll see the little trash can icon. And I literally just systematically went through and deleted them out because obviously I'm not going to include stock photos in my web page about my son. So now I've got a blank slate. If I sort of pull that window out of the way for a second, you'll see all of the pictures have disappeared from that front page. And there's a big orange button that says Add Media. So I'll click that. I'll click on Image. And just like, you know, if you're putting your photos up at CVS for printing, there's a button that says Upload Media. Upload from computer, and that's not what I wanted to show you, but I didn't mention as I went along, but I created on my website as I approached this transition. Again, like all of us, we probably have a ton of these files on our computer. I created a new folder when I started approaching Zenith's transition that I called Zenith's Core Documents. And I organized them by, 529 ABLE, emergency housing, when that became an issue, guardianship. And then Guide to Zenith is where I stored the stuff for the website. And then within that, I had a folder called Media. And these are literally the photos that I used to create Zenith's website. And you can go through and, pick some of these and click open. And just like CVS, it's going to upload those photos. So that first one is Zenith at camp with his Irish teenage aide who was with him twice at Camp Allen. His grandmother, Zenith at the beach, Zenith getting on a school bus, one of his favorite activities. Looks like it loaded. I tried to load, I guess, 2 of the videos here. I'm not sure if those will work as I've loaded them, but we'll see. And then a photo of Zenith with his folks at school. And then if I select a couple of these photos, no. Yeah, it doesn't want me to add the videos. I think I shouldn't have added here. I'll have to separately add those. But I've selected a few of the photos and I just click Add to Page. And then I click Done, and voila, there are Zenith's photos. Now, what's this? How long is it going to take to actually create the website? One of the cool things I love about Wix is it instantly saves everything you do, so you don't have to worry about saving it. And you're going to see up in the right-hand corner here is a button called Publish. And literally at any point in the process, so we've done almost nothing. I'm going to click the Publish button anyway. And it will tell you the name of the website it's created. And you can actually change this name. So mine had Zenith at the end, and I'll show you along the way how to do that. But, and then I can go view the site. And voila, now it still says Amelia Carter Photography at the top, right? But you'll see it doesn't have any other pages. And already, just in those few short clicks, just with that, how long did that take us? 5-10 minutes? I've already created a visually interesting website using photos of Zenith and his family. And I'm looking at that going, all right, well, that's a good start. I'm not that happy with one of these photos, or I really wanted to add some videos here. So I'm going to get out of here and go back to, I'm just going to go back to the web page where we were creating this and click Done. One of the other nice things, I focus really on viewing your web page on a computer. Wix is also really good at converting your website into a platform that, into a version that can be seen on a smartphone. I didn't worry about that. But as I said, it's one of the powers that it gives you to do. All right, so we're back here. We're on this, so far, single-page website. I put some media on. I just want to show you quickly the correct way to add the videos. I click on Manage Media. When I click Add Media over here, you'll see I had chosen image before, but what I really wanted to do if I want videos is click Video, Upload Video. And so let's see. All right, so now I had actually uploaded these 2 videos, and it will allow me to add these to the page. And I'll click Done again, and now the videos are actually there as well. And if I went back to publish it and preview it, there's a preview button as well. So you can see I've already included some of the videos. That's the level of technical sophistication you have to have. You have to figure out how to upload it, and then the web page puts it right in there. So I'm going to click back to editor because we've got some more work to do. We're not done even with our most basic page. Now, we probably don't want to call it Amelia Carter's page. So I'm going to go up here and click on that. And by double clicking, like a text editor, it highlights the text. I'm going to say a guide to Tommy Smith, because that's our, and I'm going to change photography to say a life. And then that's where the menu goes in. And now I'm going to, so already, again, it saves in the background. I'm going to preview it for you again. So now we've actually got a website with the right name on the top. There's no text in here to introduce you, and it still says family photographer. And boy, there aren't really any other pages yet, right? So we go back to the editor. The next thing I'll show you how to do is to add a little bit of text right up here. You come over to these bank of buttons, you click add text, and it gives you the option of doing titles or paragraphs. I'm going to say I want to add in a paragraph. Oop, that was a loud noise. It picks the font consistent with the fonts that are being used on, and you can change any of this that you know, if you've got a desire for a particular font, go crazy. I just stayed with the font that it came with. I'm going to say Tommy Smith is a smiling teenage boy who sometimes struggles with his behavior. This website will introduce you to aspects of Tommy's life. And I can see I misspelled a bunch of stuff, so I'm just going to go back. And then I'm going to go down here and double click this one. And instead of family photographer, I'm just going to, I don't know what I want there. I'm just going to take that out for now. Okay, let's preview it again. Whoa, we made some progress now. Now we have a website, and it's only a homepage, I grant you that, but a guide to Tommy Smith, a life. Tommy Smith is a smiling teenage boy. We've got some pictures and videos that show Tommy. And again, I realize if you're doing this from scratch, I'm clicking buttons. I know I'm going a little fast. I'm not going to tell you it literally is as straightforward as that. It's going to take you a little bit of time to get comfortable with the editor. You will make some mistakes. That's okay. If you create a website you don't like, or you can't figure out how to fix a mistake you made, you can just discard it and start over again with a template, and you can create as many of these free websites as you want, right? Or you get part of the way and you don't like it all. You didn't follow my advice and pick the template that I'm telling you is the best template. And instead you pick some other one, and you realize that you want to go back, you can do that too. I'm only kidding about that. I literally picked that one because it was visually appealing to me. I'm sure many others would do good. All right, so now we go back and we want to add pages, right? And you're thinking, well, this is where things are going to get complicated. And the reality is that it shouldn't be, excuse me one second, it shouldn't be that complicated. Over here we go to menus and pages, and I clicked on that icon, which is right here at the top. And you're going to see at the bottom there it says add page. And it literally comes up called new page. I'm going to change it to be called behavior. Okay, done. And then I'm going to add another page again. I'm going to call it activities. And then I'm going to add another page, and I'm going to call it swimming. And you know what? I didn't really mean to make swimming a separate page. I wanted it to be a sub-page under activities. Literally the way you do that is you click and hold, drag it a little bit to the right, and now swimming is a sub-page under activities. I haven't done any of the back, so I'm going to close that now. And I'm going to go to preview again. And you can now see on our website, we're not on the home page anymore. I click back to the home page, but it gives me the option to go to behavior, which is blank at the moment. And under activities, when I scroll over it, it gives me an option of going to swimming. So I've now created these pages. I'm going to go back here. Over on the left, you'll see my pages are now listed: portfolio, behavior, and activities. Let's click on behavior. That's a blank page, right? boy, I'd like to add in some text here. Just exactly the same way I did before, add text paragraph, drop it in there. Oh, I meant to add a title. So I go text title, and I'm going to use this title. Tommy's behavior, right? Tommy's behavior is usually excellent when he becomes frustrated. And I'm typing these from scratch, but remember, you've already created your guide to your child. So in reality, instead of doing this, I could go to my guide. I could scroll to my activities and behavior page. I've already written what I wanted to write without the stress of working on a website. I can go back to the website. I can highlight that text and just paste it. And now there it is. And now, if I preview it, that's what your page is going to look like. I go back. I've got pictures. I click on behavior. And I think, you know what? I've lost my visual fear here. I made a commitment that this is going to be a visually focused website. I've got some text. So I really wanted to add a picture. I'm going to go back here, click add again. You'll see right underneath text, it says image. And my image uploads. And those aren't any of the pictures I really wanted. I want to click the upload media button again. I want to upload some other pictures that really give a better sense of his behavior. Let's scroll down here and look. So here is one. Here is another. You know, and let's include one of him looking happy. So I'm now uploading those pictures, and I'm gonna shift click them again, click add to page, and now I've got 3 photos, and kind of just like you would in I'm gonna resize them a little bit. I'm going to put them on the page. Well, I'm pretty happy with that. There we go. As I said, it saves in the background, but sometimes so now this is what my page looks like, right? And this is really it. I'm going to repeat what I've done, but in essence, for each of these pages that I'm going to create, I've already created my content, right? I already had my guide. You should, the way my system worked, each page of my guide became a page on the website, roughly speaking. You copy and paste the text up here. And even though we only have 2 of these, in short order, you'd have 10 or so pages. If they're all top level pages, because you can't remember how to make a subsidiary page, that's fine. If you end up with subsidiary pages, that's terrific too. That really, though, what we've already done, and I'm going to go back to the editor. I'm going to click publish. And literally, I'm publishing this website. Oh, I wanted to view the site. So if you went to this website now, if you re-enter this name at the top here, you would be able to see and interact with. It is a live website. There's no activating it. There's nothing to pay. There's no process. It literally is a live website currently. Couple other things I want to show you, and then I'm going to pause again to answer questions because I know I've been going through a lot. One thing I want to deal with is how I set up the password protection. Now, I will tell you there are different levels of security. I used a relatively low level of security. I went here, again, I'm selecting the portfolio page. I'm clicking settings. You'll see the portfolio page is selected, and you're going to see these tabs over here: page info, layouts, permissions, and SEO. Click on permissions, and it says who can view this page: everyone, password holders, or members only. So if you select password holders, so these other two options, one is to have a generic password that would be the same for anyone accessing this particular page. You can, and it's a little bit more sophisticated. It would require becoming more comfortable with Wix, but you can create, make the page members only, and you can give different people different levels of permission. So if you wanted to, you could give most people access to the whole site, but only give the nursing staff access to the insurance information, for example. I chose not to do that because I first of all, wasn't completely comfortable using that piece of the technology. And I was comfortable that if someone was clever enough to get around my relatively simple security, then they could have at it. So password holders is here. You set a password, Tommy1234. And now that page is password protected. And the other thing I wanted to show you while I was here was...
Can I ask you a question in this page, Eric?
Yeah, sure.
So if you didn't password protect it, is it searchable? So like, could I search and say Zenith and I could come across this web page in some way?
I don't know the answer to... I assume the answer is yes, that it's a public website, and that... the reality is it'd be very hard to search and find it without knowing the name of the site. But of course, there are bad actors out there that have technologies that sort of scour the web for interesting information. I honestly don't know. I will tell you that Wix has a lot of tools. If you want to, for example, like promote your website about your child and not password protect it, because you were doing a social media campaign, it has a lot of tools for promoting your website on, via Facebook and Google and making it more easily found. And certainly the websites I've created, for example, for my business, I've spent a little bit of time of trying to make myself more readily found. But my goal with Zenith's website was kind of the opposite. I really intended it as a destination just for people who actually had the address. Mm-hmm. And if someone stumbled across it, I wanted to make it a little bit more difficult for them to access. So I created this password for this page, but literally if one of the ways in which this is not fully secure, if you knew, for example, the exact website address to get to a subpage that I hadn't separately password protected, you could. So, for example, if I wanted to make his insurance page more secure, I'd have to go to that page and set that specifically to take its own password, and then you would not be able to get into that page unless you had a separate password.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So let's see. I wanted to show you one other thing before we go on. Well, let me pause there for a moment while I'm thinking about the other thing I wanted to show you, and see if anybody else has any other questions.
Hi, Eric.
Yeah.
I have a question. If the website is able to, are you locked into the templates, or can you sort of add chapters to it later if you wanted to?
You can do anything you want with it. You are not locked into the templates at all. The templates are a convenient starting point for people that that are not used to creating websites from scratch.
Yeah.
So you literally can create any kind of a website whether you want. I mean, some of the other websites I've created without a lot of sophistication. This is one I created for So the New Hampshire EMS for Children project ran out of Dartmouth. I did some consulting work for them and helped them create this website. And as you can see, it looks completely different. There are a lot of great, I haven't done the most recent editing to this website, so it's a little different than what I created, but there are all kinds of templates and you can completely go off script and just do it from scratch. If you happen to know the language of websites, which is called HTML, and today's version is HTML5, you can go crazy and create whatever you want. There are lots of third parties that have created applications that plug into Wix. So you can, a lot of people use it, for example, for creating storefronts. As I said, this site right here is a site for which some money is paid for hosting. I've got some other sites I do that with as well. And it's relatively inexpensive even for what you get when you pay is you can remove the Wix. What you will see on Zenith's website is it says at the top, this site was designed with Wix. So the one limitation on what I get for free is the Wix branding stays up there. I didn't care for my particular application, but if you want to get rid of the Wix branding, then you pay their minimum monthly hosting fee, and that goes away as well. And it's like, I don't know, $9 a month at the low end. So relatively inexpensive.
So I know you've been fine-tuning this for years, kind of through the guide. So do you feel like, how much time do you think it took you to put together Zenith's website?
You know, I want to say I did have the guide already built when I did it, but between gathering I'm guessing here, I'll be honest, but I want to say it only took, maybe 3 or 4 hours to build the actual website. And I went back a few times and refined it. And that's only because I was futzing around trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And maybe a few more hours because once I decided this was a platform I wanted to use, I realized I didn't quite have all the photos and videos I wanted. That like any father, I had mostly, photos that showed him smiling and having fun. And I hadn't focused so much on what a cool thing it was to watch Zenith eat with a fork. So I did go back and create some, and probably I spent about as much time, 3 or 4 hours all told, just saying, oh, he's eating now, somebody grab my phone. And futzing around with that, but not, and how much time went into creating the guide, I really can't recall because I created, just like many parents, as I said, I suspect they already have pieces of that. I assembled that from material I had before and then tried to supplement it to be sort of a complete-ish document that I built for Camp Allen a few years ago and then just adapted for this purpose.
Right, because I'm thinking that, if someone doesn't have the capacity to put something together, it's easy enough to say, hey, send us some pictures, and to have some kind of a template where families could fill out that, about, all about me, behavior and eating, and, and then it would be easy enough for us to be able to put something together from what people supply. You
literally just watched me do 90% of it. I mean, you could have an intern who took these forms and emailing the videos sometimes is tricky. You might have to fiddle with that a little bit with Dropbox or something else so that you could transfer the videos easily. But once they had the digital photos and videos and you had someone fill out a template, literally, an hour and if that, half an hour to an hour, and the initial draft of the website will be done.
Yeah, it's great.
No, when I say 3 or 4 hours, that's me going on the Wix and trying different templates and futzing around and literally I'm sitting here. The one thing I can't remember how to show you, and I'm sure it's incredibly easy, but I want to change the name of the site and I'm trying to remember how to do that. Let's see. Oh, here we go. What's the... So this is on the SEO, it's where it allows you to fiddle with the name of the page. But what I really want to change is the My Site part. and I am not recalling off the top of my head.
I thought when I saw you click right before you went to this page, there was a rename thing underneath.
really?
Yeah. So whatever you, was it on portfolio? Down there it says rename, or that's rename portfolio.
Oh yeah, let's rename this particular page. So. Well, let's not get stuck here. I'll make sure before we do this again, I look it back up. It's relatively straightforward, and I did it, I think, Jackie, when you and I were on before. I'm a little bugged that I don't see it now, but it's very easy to change once I find it, the name. You get stuck with Wix in your name, but, well, let's try it out. Why not? Since we're just among friends here, what do you need help with? Change site name. Nope, not what we're looking for. All right, I'm going to defer this piece. I'll look it back up and make sure I know it for next time and include it on my little guide to doing this. Wherever it is, it's relatively easy. Okay. For someone who really wants a more secure website, they'd want to figure out the members area piece of it, and you can create just a piece of your website as having a members area, or you can make the whole website be members only. And the power of that is you can give individual permissions to individual people. That really is the show. Again, I feel like I've shown you that the emperor has no clothes with how straightforward it was for me to to do this. But I think for me, the beautiful part is that it turned out to be such a powerful tool for accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish, and was so readily doable. And I think the idea is transferable to others easily without cost or technical sophistication.
Yeah, and the feedback from staff has been really great in regards to how much they love being able to get to know Zenith before they met him.
Yep. I mean, we all have access to a web browser now. We all know how to use a website. I guess the only thing I need to do, like I saw his emergency medication information is out of date. The only obligation it then puts on me is to keep it up and update information as it changes.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's some feedback from one of the staff. Said, "This is great. Z's website taught all of us a lot about Z before he even met him. I think it made the staff feel so much more comfortable before he started with us."
And I could easily see, stuff I didn't have the opportunity to do. You could easily imagine I could have interviewed one of his teachers in a brief video, or gone to school and gotten some short videos of him. Literally, this is all stuff I already had or could easily make at home, but you could take it, someone who really is excited about this, could show him working with aides, could show him getting frustrated and them, managing through a piece of behavior. You could take this further easily.
Such a useful tool. I mean, it's obvious the impact that just seeing the pictures makes right away. It's an immediate thing. But as a case manager whose role is to write a service agreement about somebody that you really don't know very much about, it isn't that there's a shortage of information. We have medical records, we have school records, we have almost too many assessments and evaluations.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, when you're coming up with a document that's really going to be the main reference point for what his services are going to be, it's great to have something like this that you can, really get a picture of who this person is.
Yep. And, this is what I've done. I mean, you might tell me from staff feedback or from some of your own opinions that there's some information I didn't think about that might be useful to have on one of these pages. I mean, I think that could also easily be incorporated into whatever materials we create to share with folks.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've really covered it. Activities that he enjoys, ADLs, behavior, medications, specific, healthcare issues. I think that your guide and those topics are really, essential.
Yep. And I mean, maybe you guys have a better sense of what some of the challenges will be for people. I do know that fear of the technology might be challenging for some people, lack of comfort with it, a sense that it seems like an overwhelming project. So I think the more we can make it, streamline it and make it seem easy and straightforward, the better. I think having a sense that they could start small and add additional information or videos or pictures as it becomes available. And if you guys can figure out a way to actually just have people assemble the information and share it with you and then have someone else pop it up onto the website, which would be very easy to do, that I think that would overcome some of the key hurdles that people would face.
Right. The one issue that I saw with this is that because we're still bound to paper, that having a place where the website was easily accessible, the link, the hyperlink, because we don't necessarily, staff don't have a location to go in to click on a link. It's typed out. It was typed out on a piece of paper in a book, and so I think that for us, figuring out a way where we can organize it where it makes it really accessible will be helpful.
Well, you certainly could
add it right to the guide.
Well,
Yep.
so I have it right in the guide. I chose to put the password in here. You could decide to do that or not. That's one of the stumbling points if people don't have that. In the end, for staff, you could have a web page of web pages, if you will. You could have a web page that linked to the other web pages without the, and people still wouldn't be able to get in without the appropriate passwords, but it would be one place to keep them all.
Right. So are you saying that we could have a community partners web page that would then we could click on that little square box and then it would go to a place with all these other names that we could then click on and go into individual websites.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So we could have a page on community partners website that's on our staff access.
Yeah. Do you have a staff access section?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it'd be, I suspect, relatively easy to just add links to these pages.
Yeah.
Does the website have limits on how much information or how many photos you can put in it? And is there any limits about how long they'll maintain that information, like how long that site's good for?
Gail, I do know there are limits, but I think they're pretty high in terms of it's not like, 20 pictures and you're all done kind of thing. I haven't hit that limit. So with Zenith's website, I mean, it's been free, and Zenith's website's been up for a long time now. There is no limit, as far as I know, to how long you maintain that free website. They like it, of course, if you use your free website, because then everyone sees that branding at the top. So I have had zero problems with it. It might be one thing to explore as to what are the alternatives. And I was clicking on things. It does take a little bit of, if you had somebody internally doing it, it'd be easy. But there might be other websites that are even simpler to use than Wix if a parent is doing it. I haven't had the time to explore what those other ones would be.
So I just want to share from a family perspective, I probably, like you, am one who has multiple pages in every different document that I try to find when I need a doctor's list or medications list. And I'm going through all of that right now as we are meeting with multiple nursing agencies and trying to figure out where all my documents are. I love the idea of having a guide, like a paper guide like this, that then will easily fit into the website. I love the idea of visuals. I feel like as a family member, we're caught up all the time of talking of all the challenges of our kids, and it doesn't portray a very nice picture sometimes of who they actually are. So I love that piece of it. I love how there's so many people that are always working with our kids, and to be able to show them a website of their smiling faces before all of the other things is a really great thing. I also love the fact that I build websites in my work, and I never think about building one for something like this and how simple that is. And I also want to say, I kind of want to be the intern at Community Partners to help them. So keep me in mind for that.
You're hired, Heather.
I'll pay you for me to do it. I think it's so valuable for families, and the fact that you found one that has a free option for this that is kind of there to stay. I think it could really be simple to get this information and help families support families throughout. I think you could have, even if looking at a document like this looks really overwhelming, but I think that you could really break it out into simple kind of fillable forms that they could fill in along the way, kind of help to create that binder. And I could even foresee, if I have all of my medications on here, all my doctors, being able to just take a screenshot of that page and print it out as an option for somebody who needs a paper copy. I think there's so many great opportunities, especially in this digital world, to have this and still be able to provide all that information.
You can also very easily post, I didn't do it on Zan's website, but post PDFs like you post pictures. So that literally it becomes, you could have the guide itself downloadable as a document.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And as I said, the other thing that I didn't show people, but it does translate pretty well even without any additional effort into a mobile site. You can go in and fiddle it so it looks even nicer, but people, you're on the fly and you need to access. So I have used this website myself when I couldn't remember like his doctor's telephone number and address, and I couldn't remember. I knew it was readily available to me there on the website. So.
The other thing that I'm thinking that you probably don't want to hear, Eric, and I'm not sure what the, what, given this time when this is going to happen again, but every year there's a family support conference, and one of the things, they are always looking for proposals for people to present, and I think this would be great to present at a family support conference, so that, and you would have, Heather, do you have a sense of how many people usually are at the family support conference?
I think that they have over 500 attendees, and actually they just had a meeting. It's kind of up in the air, so of what it's going to be, but typically in the fall they start with proposals, and family members are actually ones that are part of a committee to pick the proposals of which ones to actually present at the conference. And I agree, Suzanne, I think that there's a really great opportunity for something like this, because I really find the benefit for so many family members. And I think that's a really great opportunity for families to learn. And it's something so simple, I guess, in my world, but something that you don't think of to actually use for your own situation. So I think to just have, that time to really think of this in your own situation really just helps to make sense of a really complicated process sometimes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd be happy to come, and I don't have a strong proprietary, feeling about this. I mean, I'm happy to share the idea. I'm glad you guys think it will be helpful for others. So certainly we can take Zina's website. I mean, as you saw, I started to create a dummy version of this, if you will, around Tommy Smith. We could easily create a version of the website that you could just have running on a computer at a table and show to people if I'm not available to, participate. So, no, happy to help.
Thank you so much, Eric. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
The time you put into helping everyone understand who Zenith is, and the time to help us to be able to do the same for others.
Well, so I guess one of the things I had forgotten along the way, because I think there are other ways that I can envision being helpful. I do think, and Suzanne, you and I have talked a little bit about this, that as much work as Community Partners does to try and help people understand the transition process, is still a fundamentally opaque process that has a language and a vernacular all its own. And I actually think that creating for people like from a parent's perspective, guide to the transition process and the way the services will actually unfold is probably something that I would love to be involved with as well, because I'm someone who dug into this stuff to try and understand it better, including, I mean, Gail and I have talked about this, and you and I have talked about this, but the fact that, I reached out to each of the agencies and said, can you put me in touch with families who've recently gone through this? And, I don't know that a lot of families would think to do that, but that was like a fundamentally helpful thing to do, both in terms of me gaining an understanding of the process, but also just as we're talking about the emotional aspects of the website and introducing your child, building my comfort level with the process was immeasurably enhanced by talking to others who'd gone through it before. And so I think it helps you from the standpoint of your mission of getting people comfortable with the process if they can talk to someone who's popped out the other side. But that was something, again, that I sort of discovered along the way that I wanted to do. It wasn't something that someone had said to me, at least that I recall, hey, make sure you ask each of the agencies to share with you some references of people who've gone through the process. So.
Yeah, I appreciate the offer for that as well, because I do think that it is, I mean, you're, on the other side of it now, but I think that there is a lot of uncertainty. And I think helping, I just really love this idea. I think helping families to be able to say, you know what, we need to have everyone understand who your child is. And this is one way that we're going to be able to make sure that everyone understands who your child is as they move into this new program. Like every big transition, middle school, kindergarten.
Yep, for sure.
All right. All right. I was just going to ask, how long is it going to be before Lucas has a web page, Heather?
This will probably be done by the end of tomorrow. I'm on
Already
vacation
working
tonight.
Heather, we had a conversation about this earlier.
We sure did.
Heather's going to be my first.
I'd be happy to share it when it is finalized.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Eric.
Well, you're welcome. And Jackie, I'll send you these updated documents. I'm going to figure out how to change that site name. I'll include that in there. And then, let's talk about when you want to try and do this again.
Sounds fabulous. And I'll get them out to all of us and to everyone who wasn't unfortunately able to make it tonight. So thank you, Eric, so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for asking me to participate.
Of course. This is wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Bye. Good night.